He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkers. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. Boy, it's a late Saturday night for this one. But, Wyatt, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you tonight. Sorry I'm a little late. Finished watching the Xfinity race, setting all the info into the PowerPoint presentation for tonight, and then finished watching my Virginia Tech Hokies just get destroyed. What an ugly game. But we are here to talk about racing and not football, even though there's lots of football still kind of going on. All right, let's get into it. We are headed to Gateway or St. Louis or Worldwide Technology Raceway. I don't know. I'm just going to call it Gateway because it's a lot shorter than Worldwide Technology Raceway. Either way, fourth trip for the Cup Series headed to the Enjoy Illinois 300. But before we head out there, let's go back 1 week to Darlington, to the Cookout Southern 500, where, oh boy, Chase Briscoe just absolutely dominated that race. We haven't seen a domination like that in a race since Martin Truex Jr. in the 19 drove a couple races like that. Boy, did not quite see that one coming. Was not on my my list of the 15 core drivers, so my week was a little bit on the rough side. The rest of it turned out okay with drivers, but yeah, if you didn't have Chase Briscoe getting 153 points, you probably had a miserable night in Draftkings, to say the least. But John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones, Legacy having a phenomenal race, finishing third and fourth. AJ, my pick from last week, that was the shining bright star of the weekend last week was AJ finishing in fifth. He had an incredibly great practice and just showed up for that entire race. Carson Hocevar finishing in ninth. I mean, who knows with Chaos what he's going to end up doing. And then Tyler Reddick has always run pretty well there, finishing in second. He didn't have much for Chase Briscoe. I mean, he did kind of on the late run, but overall, the next gen car proved again that the Aero Block is what wins races. So either way, Chase Elliott is still sitting at the top with 9 all by himself in the Optimal Lineup Challenge. Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, William Byron, Ryan Blaney all knocking on the door. We still have, 9 races left to go. So it's still anybody's contest. Other drivers that made the optimal, or not optimal, but pretty close. Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, Noah Gragson with a good 14th place finish for Noah. Maybe Noah and front row are starting to turn the corner. Zane Smith also with front row finishing in 13th. Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, and Ryan Preece rounding it out. Either way, that was last week. Let's put that in the rearview mirror because I didn't have a whole lot of much of Briscoe, and that kind of hurt my weekend, to say the least. Either way, what is Gateway? Gateway is, man, unique track after unique track after unique track. If you look at it from above like this, you almost kind of see a reverse Darlington, at least from this angle. But it's two different, distinct ends to the racetrack. One real tight with some banking, and the other is just a long, sweeping, forever corner in 3 and 4. It's very unique. It's flat. It's flat, kind of like New Hampshire or Phoenix. And if you kind of look at the speeds that they run down the straightaways, they don't get quite up to Pocono and Indy, but the braking is almost as severe. So it's a very unique track. It's a one of a kind. I'm glad they go there, but handicapping it is somewhat difficult because we only go there once a year and it's very unique. So other tracks to compare to, like I said, you can kind of do an Indy and a Pocono, but their speeds are so much higher at Indy and Pocono, but the flatness is the same. New Hampshire's kind of the same with the big sweeping corners without a whole lot of banking, so turns 3 and 4 are kind of like New Hampshire. Nashville's kind of the same way because there's a lot of heavy braking going into turn 1 and turn 3, but it's a concrete track. It's super unique. So there really isn't a whole lot of comparisons. You can put Phoenix in there, and if you put Phoenix in there, you can also do Richmond and Iowa. But I don't know. It's just a unique track. That's all there is to it. We've raced there 3 times in the Cup Series. Xfinity finally raced there tonight for the first time, I don't know, in 15 years or something. I can't remember the actual date that it's been, but it's been a long time. They ended up having a pretty good race, even though Connor Zilic once again just showed his absolute dominance in the Xfinity Series and just not relinquishing. I mean, the kid literally broke his collarbone, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and the 88 car still has not lost a race since then. They had a substitute driver for one race, and he came back and raced Portland last week and won, and now once again turns around and wins at Gateway, a track he's never been to, that he's never seen, and just got the pole and led all the laps. We'll see what he can do next year in the Cup Series. It's going to be interesting if that kid picks up the Xfinity Series as fast as he has. It'll be a learning curve to get into the Cup Series. It's just a different ball game. But either way, our optimal lineups from Gateway for the past 3 years. And the other thing that's unique about this is the lap count. It's 240 laps for this race. We don't really have any other races that are 240 laps. You've got Nashville that's about 300 laps, but then the Pocono and Indy are less than 200. So this 240 laps is a very unique lap count. And when we talk about lap counts, the reason why that's important is because of Dominator points. And trying to come up with, how many Dominators do we want to look at? Are we looking at place differential? Are we looking at... And this is kind of a mixed bag. It's not a huge place differential. It's not a huge Dominator style track. The points aren't extremely high. As you can see, I mean, Kyle Busch got 105 in 2023 after leading about half of the race. So definitely a dominating performance by Kyle Busch, but he started from the pole and only got 105 points. Where last week with 367 laps, Briscoe got 153 points. And he did lead like 85% of that race. But either way, we just don't see huge. I don't think we're going to see somebody go out and lead 200 laps tomorrow. We'll see, maybe somewhere in the range of the 80 to 100 laps. But they kind of, because of fuel mileage, and this track has a tendency to have long green flag runs, which then creates green flag pit stops. Tire fall off was not real significant, but we will see some issues with braking and downshifting issues. If you watched practice and qualifying, when they were going into the first corner, they were going from 5th all the way down to 3rd. Well, by doing that, that can free the rear end up of the car and make it very loose end. And then you push up through the corner. That could create a little bit of chaos, but typically once you get a little bit spread out, what that does is the person behind you just gets a chance to slip under you. So if your car's handling well, you should be fine. By the way, last year we had one Dominator, and that was Christopher Bell leading 80 laps. And that was, I mean, 80 of 240. I mean, yeah, it's a third of the race. And then Austin Cindric, who did win the race, led 53 laps. And he led most of those laps during green flag pit stop exchanges. You know, Brian Blaney would come in a little bit early. Austin would run a little bit late along. Also, the same thing happened with Brad when he led a 17. It was during green flag pit stops where Brad would stay out a little longer and, you know, hold on and maintain that track position. So that's why it's kind of said this is typically a green flag type of run, and that's your passing is going to come realistically from pit road and some attrition, but it's unique. This is definitely a place differential, not place differential. It's a hold and maintain your position type of race. All right. So make sure you're paying attention to the highlighted yellow here. This is kind of the more expensive Dominator point total we need to get to, and that'll come in handy when we put the drivers on the calculator to find out how many points they may or may not get. So that way we can adjust what drivers we want to hold on to and put into our lineups and which ones we don't want to waste our times with. So it's about 60 points, somewhere in that range. So we'll just call it a 60 would probably be enough to get you close to being in the optimal lineup. Maybe 62 to 65 if you're $10,000 and more. 9 to 10 would probably get you down to a solid 60, and then we'll adjust as we go cheaper, and it becomes who becomes value. All right, the top 15 in points. This is the other side of the coin to who we want to keep in our lineups and who we don't. 35.2, so 34 to 35 points are the point totals for the top 15 on average, and that kind of runs the gambit. It's about 5 drivers starting in the top 10 spots, 3.8 drivers coming from 11 through 20 starting spot, and 4.4 21 through 30, with only 1.8 or 2 drivers coming from 31st or worse. So typically, if you don't qualify well here, you don't really get the opportunity and chance to move up. It's just a really difficult track to pass at. So kind of keep that in mind. 35 points to 34 to 35 points is kind of the cutoff for the top 15 in points. And that's kind of where I like to draw a line, is 15 drivers that I want to put as my core group. Then we'll have another sub-core group, which will probably consist of about 7 to 8 drivers that you need to kind of mix and match in with those core 15. And that's kind of how you build your lineup. So at that point, you've got about 20 to 23 drivers that you have as a core, and that you can eliminate the other, 11 drivers for tomorrow's race. Is 36 drivers starting. So if you've got 22, 36, 14 drivers that you can eliminate from the real contention. So, all right, let's get into our driver breakdown. Hoping that this is not going to be an extremely long video. My son has a baseball tournament tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and that runs all the way until 1:30. So I'm also going to have to stay up tonight and probably set most of my lineups after I finish the video. So hopefully this won't be like a 2.5 hour video. Maybe we can hopefully cut this down to about an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes. But either way, we want to make sure we get through all the data. If you are new here, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. We had a huge surge last week, and we usually do for the crown jewel races. And we also didn't have NFL going, and it was the first start of college football. So viewership was really up last week, and I appreciate everyone who tuned in last week. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Let's get into it. Ryan Blaney, $11,000, the most expensive driver on the board. Pretty much this sheet here, if you are new to the channel, is kind of the breakdown of everything that you kind of need to know about the history for this driver at comparison style tracks, the same track, and the history, total history. So let me kind of break it down. So this line here, which is 1 win, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 54.2 Draftkings average, a 12.6 average finish, and a 5.8 average running position. That's kind of important because what that's showing is he will typically run the race on average 5th or 6th. It could be better, it could be a little bit worse, but he's ending up the race at a 12.6 on average. Now, realistically, this number also, these 5 races come from this grouping here, which is the last 3 races at Gateway, the Indy race, and the Phoenix race. And the reason I chose those was mostly because we had a track they're both similar because they're flat, but the total lap count is also somewhat similar. Actually, no, the Indy race is not there. So excuse me on that one. It's the Phoenix race from the spring and the Nashville race about 2 months ago. And that's mostly due to lap count and the similar style race. Then, of course, here, Ryan Blaney, $11,000 is his price in DraftKings. He is starting in the 5th position. He qualified in 5th. His practice speeds. Here, he was 12th in single lap. So his fastest one lap, he was 12th on the board. He did 41 total laps of practice. And if we look at the 10-lap consecutive average, so a driver needs to go out and run 10 consecutive laps without coming in for a pit stop or an adjustment, he was 4th on that board. Then the full race, the last race here, which would be last year's Gateway race, Ryan Blaney finished in 24th. And if you happen to recall that race, he and Christopher Bell had been kind of dueling it back and forth, and Ryan Blaney ended up not having enough fuel, and Christopher Bell ended up having a slight issue, and they both ended up not finishing 1st or 2nd, which then turned the race over to Austin Cindric for Austin Cindric's win last year. Now, the total full race history, since they've only raced in the Cup Series 3 times here, this kind of is real easy. So 3 starts, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, an 11.3 average finish for those 3 races. Then down here is, of course, the NASCAR Cup Trophy for the winner of the end of the year playoffs. This signifies that he is in the playoffs. The plus 22 is how many points he is good on the playoff standings from the cut line. So he's probably in pretty good shape. And the 2 checkered flags are he has 2 wins on the season. All right, that's pretty much the gist of this entire page. I won't go into full detail for each driver, but it is here for your reference. All right, our practice speeds. The white line here is the average of all the drivers. And on average, most drivers ran about 34 laps. So that was kind of the cutoff. Ryan Blaney did 41 laps. They weren't all consecutive. He did come in to make some adjustments. But these are, Ryan Blaney is in yellow. Christopher Bell ends up being the driver that I chose this week to be the one that, the comparison to everyone. So mostly because at the very end of his runs, after all of his adjustments, he was the fastest after making the adjustments. So that's why Christopher Bell ended up being here. Christopher Bell is also really good at this racetrack. Okay, so this here is the calculator page. So we can look up here again. Ryan Blaney is starting in 5th. The average finish of 12th. That comes from the last 5 races, either at this track or tracks most recent that compare to it. And then also the trend line. So this is the last 5 normal oval tracks. So that excludes the Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta type races, which are the drafting style super speedway races. It also excludes any of the road courses. there is some trend that happens with those, but more significantly, the trend I'm most concerned about is what is the trend at a more typical oval style track. So that's what this is, and this last 5 trend line here. So the best and worst that Ryan Blaney has finished over the last 5 races is 3rd and 18th. So he hasn't finished any worse than 18th, and he has an average finish of 10th. Now the comparison tracks, that goes back the last 3 years. Once again, that's these races here: the Gateway 2024, 23, 22, the Phoenix Spring Race, and the Nashville Summer Race. He had a best finish of 1st and a worst finish of 28th with a 12.6 average finish. So I'm calling the average finish of about 12th. So if we go to our calculator and we put in a starting position of 5th, now of course if we go to 12th, that's negative place differential. But if we keep his fast laps and laps led at 15 and 30, that's only 38.25 points. Well, for somebody with Ryan Blaney's price tag, he needs to get to 60 points for him to be considered. Speculation is Gateway is typically a Penske style track. Ryan Blaney has always run here. Austin Cindric won last year, and the first year that they ran here, Joey Logano won this race. Joey Logano, being with Team Penske, also has an average finish of 3rd with a 1st, 3rd, and 6th place finish. So with that being said, we're going to move. How far up does Ryan Blaney need to go? Can he finish in 3rd, have 15 fast laps and 30 laps led? It gets him real close to that 60-point mark. So if he happens to go and win the race, he does make it there. With only 30 laps led and 15 fast laps, 63.25 points puts him over the 60-point optimal. But, if he, let's say he finishes in 5th, starts in 5th, and has these, it's 53.25. Now, that's not somebody we would potentially take out of our 15 because he does make the top 15 in points. So it's somebody that I would want to keep in my group. That then all depends on how much I want or think I should play of Ryan Blaney within my lineups. So starting in 5th, being a track that Penske, number 1, is very good at, and Ryan Blaney also runs really well at. Other than a fuel mileage issue last year, he would have probably won the race or finished 2nd behind Christopher Bell, and that would have negated Austin Cindric to a 3rd place finish. But either way, I think Ryan Blaney should probably finish in the top 5 if everything stays fairly normal. So we'll just kind of leave it at 5th, 53.25. Ryan Blaney is definitely somebody I'm going to kind of put into probably my top 15 drivers, but that we'll kind of look at what else comes after him since he is the first driver. So let's continue on. Denny Hamlin, 10,700, starting from the pole position. Week number 2 in a row for Denny Hamlin on the pole. For somebody who doesn't qualify very well, Denny Hamlin sure is qualifying pretty well the last 2 weeks. So not sure exactly what to say about that. It didn't work out last week. Will it work out this week? Maybe. Let's look at some stats. He was 17th in single lap for practice. He did 39 laps of practice, and he was 15th in 10 lap consecutive average. Now, also remember that most of the playoff drivers, there's 16 of them, were in the second group of practice. So they split into 2 groups, and they have the drivers who really kind of based on points for the most part, but there is a matrix that they use for qualifying order and practice order. The lower down practices first, then the second group's practice. And I've talked about this before, but if you're new to the channel, a green racetrack or a clean racetrack, the first set of cars out on it typically will run faster laps, but it's more inconsistent data to what we'll see under race conditions, where the second group is typically the playoff drivers and the drivers who finished well last week run in the second group. Well, typically they will run, their fastest lap will be slower than the first group, but it's more valid data because there's more rubber on the track. They've made adjustments from the first group, and all those things kind of happen. Qualifying ends up being pretty equal because everybody at that point has run on a not green racetrack, because the first group will come out. The first, 10 to 15 laps will be kind of a green track. But by the time they get to lap 30, they kind of have a better understanding of what their car is going to be doing. And that's why they make adjustments during practice. But either way, that's kind of a breakdown of why all of a sudden the playoff drivers in practice will seem like they were slow, but then qualified well. Now, they also will make qualifying adjustments. They'll bump air pressures up. They'll make some track bar adjustments and those types of things for only one lap. That typically would not work well for a long run, what you would see in a race. So they'll adjust that back down to what they saw in practice. That's why you see them not practice as high, but then come out and qualify much better. Either way, Denny Hamlin at the 5 races that we're comparing to, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, an 8.6 average finish with a 10.2 average running position. He finished in second last year in this race. 3 total starts with 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and a 12.7 average finish. So about an average finish of about where he runs, 10.2. He is 43 points to the good on the cut line and should be perfectly fine to make it to the next round. So he's going to want to probably go out and try to win the race as best he can. Let's see what his practice speeds look like in comparison. And they almost follow the average line completely. And this is very normal for Denny Hamlin. He usually doesn't try to go and push his car to any type of extremes during practice. He really wants to see what his car is going to do on a long run when he takes care of his equipment. And this is very typical of a Denny Hamlin type of practice, which means that he's probably going to end up being pretty good in the race. Now, mechanical issues and having damage will always kind of skew that, but if everything stays green and clean, Denny Hamlin should probably have a pretty decent race. And starting from the pole, because of the Aero Block. So you'll hear a lot about the Aero Block, and what that is the lead car has a much larger advantage of holding on to the lead because of how the aerodynamics of this car work and the downforce. And kind of what you're seeing is as the car is cutting through the air, they are the first car to hit that clean air, and it ends up pushing more on the front of the car, which gives more grip to the front tires. It also is the first car to hit the rear spoiler, which then will also settle the rear end of the car better, which then also creates wake. So they're a much more balanced car in the lead. The second car in line then has to come through what they call the wake, or it's just like going behind a boat when you see a somebody who's skiing behind the boat. There's a wake, and it's very similar to an air wake, and it's much more disturbed. It's hard to get the downforce on the front of the car to help you turn in, and it also creates less downforce on the rear spoiler, so it's harder to get up and pass the lead car, and that's called aero blocking. So what Denny Hamlin would do is try to make sure he gets out to the lead, and at that point he can aero block. He can kind of look at the line that the driver behind him is running and try to manipulate the air so it's much more difficult for the second place driver to get in front of him. So what you'll see is it's a huge importance for the lead driver to get to the lead, because then they are able to maintain that. So I forgot to look. How many laps is the first stage? Because that is important to look at, because that gives us an indication. So the first stage is 45 laps. So that's pretty much a full tire run. The tire did not fall off enough for them to cut that in half. They'll have plenty of fuel in the car to make it for 45 laps. The next stage after that is 95 laps. And then the final stage is 100 laps. That will have to be cut in half. 95 lap run, pretty much because of how the caution stage break works. It's pretty much only a 90 lap run, because they'll spend 5 laps under caution during the stage break. Cut that in half, it's 45. So it'll be 45, 45. So it'll be 45 in the first stage. Then they'll split the second stage, 45 and 45, if there are no cautions. If we have cautions, all bets are off. That's when the strategy gets wonky. But Denny Hamlin starting from the pole last week, I thought he would get out front, but Chase Briscoe beat him to it, starting in the outside pole. Now, Denny Hamlin does have quite a fierce competitor, and Kyle Larson starting in the second spot tomorrow. So that could be it. The question goes, do you think Denny Hamlin gets to the lead on the first lap? If so, then he probably will maintain that for the 45 laps. So when we get down to the calculator, that's where this calculator becomes important. Now, starting from the pole, if he has an average finish of, not an average finish of second. Let's see, 8.6, 12.7, it's about a 10, 8.6, 10. So we'll call it a 9. But we probably won't put that in there. So the question is, if he starts from the pole, finishes in first, and leads, if he leads 120 laps, it's 86 points. But let's just say he leads those first 45 laps and has about, let's say, 20 fast laps. But he falls to fourth at the end of the race. Well, that's only 57.25. I mean, it's in the top 15 in points, but is it enough for the optimal? Nah, it's going to be close. If he falls to third, still probably not quite enough. Will Denny Hamlin finish first or second and lead at least 45 laps? Naturally, if you lead that many laps, you'll probably have about 20 fast laps. So, not necessarily overly concerned about the fast laps. Those will follow suit with laps led. So, start in first, finish in second, lead 45 laps of the first stage, and it's 61.25 points. Now, if he falls anything worse than fifth, and it's going to be tough. Or he doesn't lead as many laps as we want him to, or think he could do, then that could be worse. So that's why taking somebody on the pole position can be a tough call, because any slip and not finishing in the top 4 or 5 without leading enough laps becomes very costly and almost puts you outside of the top 15 very quickly, especially at his price tag at $9,700. I still like the Denny Hamlin call. He's typically very good at this style track. He's really good at aero blocking. And his practice speeds were okay. So I don't have a problem with Denny Hamlin. I'm not in, I don't think there's a clear favorite at this point between Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin starting from the pole has a slight advantage, because I would think that he gets out front for the first stage and probably is able to hold and maintain. The question is, can Kyle Larson get around him? Maybe. Christopher Bell, next in line here at 10,500, starting from the 8th position. His practice speeds were 18th and 9th in 10-lap consecutive average. He also was the car that I picked as my comparison car for it, and typically I've had a pretty good track record of picking somebody that does pretty well in the race. They may not always win, but they typically end up faring pretty well. So I do like Christopher Bell a lot this week. He's starting in 8th, 18th in single lap, 9th, and 10 lap consecutive average. He does have one win, which was at Phoenix in the spring on this style similar track. For the 5 races, 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, 7.6 average finish with an 8.8 average running position. He finished 7th in this race last year. And it was between him and Blaney, as I said earlier, for the win. And they just made a mistake, which happens. He has an average finish of 9th place. And like I said, he is our comparison car. I did compare him to William Byron, who also looked very good in practice, mostly below average for pretty much the entire run for both of them. So no issues or problems there. And let's put him on the calculator. Start him in 8th. And, if we can get up to, let's just cut it in half. Let's go to 4th. Lead 30 laps and have 10 fast laps. It's 56 points. Not quite enough. He's going to need to probably finish in the top 3 or top 2 and only lead 30 laps. 2 would do it. 2 would get you to 60. Now, if he can lead any more than that, then it's just a bonus. Or it gives you a little bit of room to not get all the way up to 2nd. In fact, if he can lead 50 laps, he could probably almost finish where he starts and almost make it. So a 6th place finish leading 50 laps would probably get him there. It's very doable for Christopher Bell. He's extremely good at this style track and at Phoenix. So Christopher Bell, top. There's a reason why these 3 guys are very, very high priced. They all should run very, very well. All right, Chase Briscoe, our winner from last week. Priced at $10,000, starting from 3rd. Good qualifying spot for Chase Briscoe again. He's qualified really, really well so far this year, all year long. He was 13th in single lap, pretty good single lap, and 26th in 10 laps. So he fell off a little bit in the 10 lap consecutive average. Comparing to the tracks, though, this style track, he's outperformed all of his averages so far this year. So take his averages with a grain of salt. I think he does better than what his averages are, because you have to remember all these averages, except for Phoenix and Nashville, he was in this Joe Gibbs car, but prior to that, he was in the Stewart-Haas Ford. So, and there's a reason why Stewart-Haas is not here anymore. They've got 1 car, but they sold 4 cars, and Chase Briscoe got moved over to Joe Gibbs Racing. D Pope, what's up, buddy? Welcome aboard. We're just a few minutes in, about 38 minutes in. Trying not to make this an extremely long video tonight, but things are dragging on again. I have a tendency to do that. But either way, Chase Briscoe, like I said, his averages here are not great. 25.4, 3 starts with only 1 top 20 and a 25th place average finish. I think he definitely performs much better than his averages. So now, can he get up and win again? Maybe. There are certain tracks that these guys are better at, and I think Chase Briscoe is going to be perfectly fine. There is a chance he could win, but I think it's much more, maybe a good 10th to 15th is kind of more of where I'm thinking about probably putting him. His practice speeds were, not bad, and these couple laps here that he had a slip or pushed it too hard through a corner, it's really hard to say what made him jump from a 34 to a 35, a full second difference. But he rebounded pretty quickly and fell right back below average. So, starting in 3rd, he's qualified into the next round. If anything, he might be trying to get some stage points. He probably wants a nice solid finish to can maintain some of this momentum throughout the playoffs. But I don't love the starting spot. And like I said, I'm going to kind of fade away from the averages. I'm going to probably look more like what's the trend over the last 5 normal oval style races, and it's first through 18th with an average of 7th. Well, okay, let's say if he finishes in 7th, but let's say he doesn't lead a whole lot of laps. You know, I honestly don't not sure he leads a whole lot of laps, so we'll leave him at 0 because I mean, number one, he's going to have to get around Denny and Larson, and his practice speeds looked okay, but I'm not sure they have enough. We'll give him 10 fast laps, but if he falls to 7th, it's a 37.5. I mean, as much as he burned me last week, and he could burn me this week, I will probably regulate Chase Briscoe to the sub core and maybe not even inside my top 22. So the core is the top 15, the sub core is 16 through 22, and the 14 other drivers that would be outside of there. He's right on that cut line for me. I might throw him in. If I'm running 40 lineups, I might run him in 2 just to, maybe throw a full Toyota slate in, or, so I just don't like the Chase Briscoe play this week. I think he might have a top 10 finish, but if he doesn't finish in the top 3 and lead laps, it's just going to be really tough. You were waiting for me to go live, but I'm late. Yeah, I got on late too. I mean, the Xfinity raced in until later, and because practice and qualifying for the Cup Series didn't finish until later, and a couple of spots that I get a lot of my information did not update as quickly as I would have hoped. So it took me a little longer to get all my stuff together, and I was watching some football, and I'm a big Virginia Tech Hokie fan, and I should have just turned the TV off at halftime. I would have been probably much happier. But either way, we got a late start. We're rolling through now. Had to see my team bounce back to get a win. Who's your team? Who do you like? Were you Mississippi State against Arizona State? Because they did get that bounce back at the very end and get that win. So if it is, yeah, they had quite a game. In fact, they tore the goalpost down, I think I saw, which is crazy. Oh, Alabama. Okay. Yeah, you guys had a rough week last week against Florida State. My best friend's a huge Florida State. Oh, your pops played at Alabama. Oh, that's cool. I lived in Blacksburg, Virginia for 18 or 19 years. Ran a couple restaurants in the Blacksburg area and been to more Tech games than I want to remember. A lot of them I can't remember, but that's for a different story. All right, let's stick with some racing here. William Byron, 9,700, starting in 6th, 24th in single lap, 12th in 10 lap consecutive average. And the 5 races in comparison, he's got 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. At Gateway, he has no top 5s, only 1 top 10 out of the 3 starts with a 14th place average finish. But the comparison, like style tracks, it's a 10.6 average finish, starting in 6th. William Byron also has not been, the trend line has not been kind to William Byron. Now, his practice speeds looked very, very consistent and good. I mean, like I said, it was a kind of a mixed bag on whether I used William Byron or Christopher Bell as the comparison driver this week. And I finally decided to stay with Christopher Bell because the late run speed was a slightly better. But William Byron seemed to show plenty of speed. Now, the trend line here is the part that's probably the most concerning. He did win Iowa, which is somewhat similar in a lot of ways, but it's also different. It doesn't have quite the sweeping corner that a Phoenix has, or Richmond. Richmond's got the whole straightaway that's kind of that big sweeping corner. It's just so... It's such a unique track. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But the average is a 14.2 for William Byron. He's been super consistent. And he's got a 10.6 average finish at the 5 comparison racetracks. Practice speeds are fine. It's the trend line that seems to be kind of the thing I'm struggling with a little bit. And starting in 6th, let's say he does lead. Well, let's give him 18 laps. We'll give him 9 fast laps. Well, if he finishes in 3rd, that's 52.55. I mean, starting in 6th, that's going to be tough. I could see the argument for running some William Byron, but I can also see the trend line and starting position. And if we go back and look, he's never finished in the top 5 before this race, and only once in the top 10. Now, he's finished all of them in the top 20, but the consistency here seems to be kind of somewhere the 12th, 13th place finish. Now, 3 races is not a big sample size, but you're going to need to lead more than 18 laps and finish in 1st to even get to the 60. I mean, I think I like the William Byron play more than I like the Chase Briscoe play, but I don't like either one of them. So, with that being said, it's just hard. The chrome horn looks nice, by the way. I haven't even had a chance to look. How many entries are in the chrome horn this week? Oh, 11,000. Okay, that is much better. Yeah, that number's way down. Now, the top prize is not... I mean, the top prize is what? Still 10 grand? Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, the top prize last week was what, 20 or 50? 20, I think. They're all going to be less contestant in races from here to the end of the season because of football. There is I'll see it in my view count. I will have probably half of the views. Number 1, I started late tonight. Number 2, because the NFL has now started and is in full season, NASCAR will slide down a little bit, which means there's less people playing. Does make it there's an advantage because there are less people playing. There's also a disadvantage because the guys like me who run NASCAR, and I will every once in a while I have 2 free entries into the NFL for tomorrow, and I'll kind of just throw a lineup in, and if it happens to do well, it's fine. It was a free entry. But I don't spend a whole lot of time making NFL lineups. I still continually use my time and put it towards NASCAR. Now, with that being said, we lose some people because they want to do the NFL, like Family Guy, a friendly man who comes in. He's usually here for the first 2/3 of the NASCAR season, and then once NFL starts, I lose him as a viewer, number 1. But he also is knee deep in NFL. And I agree with him. NFL is probably easier to win at DFS than NASCAR is because you don't have... You can still have a guy that'll blow his knee out or get an injury, and he might be in your lineup. But, having somebody blow a tire is much more... Or being involved in a wreck without being responsible for the wreck happens a lot more often than that one player that you picked to have an injury. So there's just a lot more inconsistencies with NASCAR DFS than there is with NFL DFS. I like NASCAR more than I like the NFL. So that's why I play it. But the William Byron play, I'll put him right there with Chase Briscoe. He's I'll run a couple of lineups with him, but probably not a whole lot. Do you do baseball DFS at all? I've been trying seems a lot harder than NASCAR. Um, yes, I have done baseball in the past. And I've been hit or miss. The problem is at this point I've now spent so much time and energy building um spreadsheets and algorithms and everything else with NASCAR, and I don't use anybody else's sites to build that stuff. I import all of my own data, all of my own practice speeds um, from NASCAR or other non-DFS sites that I can pull the data from, Racing Reference and JSki and those types of sites. I'm able to pull a lot of data from, and I import them into my own spreadsheets. So I've spent a lot more time building those. Like I said, I've run some baseball, and I would say to win consistently, I think it's easier. The NFL is probably easier than baseball. Baseball is easier than NASCAR. Um, there's there is more inconsistencies with baseball than there is with NFL, but the variations with NASCAR compared to baseball, like what you've got to do with NFL and with baseball is you've got to find that one or two sleeper pick that either hits 2 home runs in a game or scores 2 touchdowns in a game, and they're sub 3 to 5% owned. Where I mean NASCAR, like Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano tomorrow are going to be 35, 40, 45% owned. You're not going to see players in the NFL with that type of ownership tomorrow. High owned NFL person is like 20, 25% owned. And that's going to be like Jalen Daniels tomorrow with Washington. He might get to the 20, 25% ownership range. So it's just the way it is. There's more sleeper picks available, and if you hit that sleeper pick correct in the NFL, you have a really good shot at winning big in the NFL. Same thing happens with baseball. It's a lot harder to find that sleeper pick in NASCAR because the ownership gets spread pretty evenly. And a sleeper pick to do well for tomorrow's race is going to be like a Noah Gragson, a Todd Gillen, a Zane Smith. They'll be sub 10% owned. A sleeper pick in the NFL is a sub 2 or 3% owned. So hopefully that explains it. There's just not a whole lot of comparison, but I have done baseball. I've done well and I've done bad. I've done more consistently well in NASCAR, but I spend a lot more time and energy with NASCAR than I do with baseball. I enjoy baseball. My son plays baseball. Like I said, we've got a game tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. He's 14, plays travel ball. He played middle school ball. He's practicing with the high school baseball team right now, but they don't have tryouts until spring. So he got offered to come and do workouts with them. So that's a positive. So I love the game of baseball. Just don't play DFS with it. All right. So Kyle Larson's practice speeds. I mean, once again, the Hendrick guys look pretty good. So compared to Christopher Bell, I mean, he's not far off. How large of a pool are those ones in DFS? You talking about like the NFL ones? Once again, you've got to stay away from the Millie Maker, which is the 3.5 football Millie Maker. First place gets $1 million because there's 832,000 entries in that, and it's $5 to get in. So what is that? Let's do a quick math. 832,000 entries at $5. That's $4.16 million in entry. So, first place total prizes. So, Draftkings by itself will make $610,000 on that one contest, and they'll pay out $1 million to first. Now, second place and all those. What does second place get? 100,000. Third place gets 60,000. And it pays out to 173,000 spots, and you get $8 if you are between 50,000 and 173,000. But there's 800,000 people. There's going to be 650,000 people who don't make any money in that contest, all for the opportunity to potentially win $1 million. I mean, chances are better at that than they are with the lottery, but yeah. I mean, here's another one. It's 158,000 people entered in it. Yeah, that's why you also see huge ownership swings where you can find guys that are, I mean, Jalen Daniels might be 20% owned tomorrow. And he might be one of the highest owned quarterbacks in the NFL. So hopefully that answers. How large of a pool are those one-offs? I'm not sure. No, NASCAR. How can I take down the Chrome? Do I need to force one low? Yes, you to take down the Chrome horn, you have to have probably two drivers that are definitely under 10% owned. One of them probably has to be sub 5% owned. And there are realistically probably 10 drivers to choose from. The problem is you still need the other 5 drivers to be the 5 drivers that are going to do well. And that's the tough part. So, you've got 10 sleeper drivers that you think and probably are going to be at least sub 10% owned. The problem is you now need to go find the other 5 drivers that are probably going to be 20-25% owned, and actually they end up doing well, and you find that sleeper. That's the tough part. There's a lot more luck involved, in my opinion, in NASCAR DFS than there is in NFL. So, does that answer your question? So yeah, trying to find the sleeper in NASCAR. Like we'll look through this and I'll try to pinpoint a sleeper. Other than Chase Briscoe winning last week because of his stats and him being in the playoffs, him winning last week and being in the playoffs will not make him a sleeper. But Noah Gragson potentially could be a sleeper. Will you list the sleepers at the end? I will try my best. How's that? Try to help remind me, and I'll try to make a notation as we go through. And what it is it's going to be somebody that I think is going to be at least under 10% owned, that I think could also do well. So, Tyler Reddick, 9,200, starting in 7th. He was 22nd in single lap, 17th in 10-lap consecutive average. He's got an average finish of 16.8 for the 5 tracks we're comparing to. 3 total starts here at Gateway with 1 top 5, 2 top 20s, an 18.3 average finish. I mean, finishes are okay. He finished best 4th last year. Pope also says, I have a sweet NFL ticket lineup for the Millie, hand built last week, and I'm not changing it. Cool. You want to share with the rest of us? I'm kidding. Good luck with that if you end up winning. Take me to the Super Bowl if you hit. I think we're all going to Phoenix for the finale if he hits. I think that was the deal that Pope made a couple weeks ago. If he ended up hitting a big pot, he's going to take us all to Phoenix. Okay, Tyler Reddick. We're going to Phoenix. Yep, I remember. Tyler Reddick's practice speeds were okay. It was a little slow to start. Made some adjustments. They improved. Still didn't do quite enough laps for me to feel real comfortable. And this track is he does okay at. He's not. Tyler Reddick struggles a little bit with the shorter intermediate tracks. The 1.5s Tyler Reddick is extremely good at. This track races like a short track, but it's got the speeds of an intermediate. It's just very unique. I think Tyler Reddick will be fine. I don't think he's going to go out and set the world on fire tomorrow. So far looking at practice speeds, I don't see anybody really that has the potential of setting the world on fire, other than maybe, that's Denny Hamlin or Larson or Blaney. Those three right now, or Bell. Those four are kind of probably going to be my core four for potential dominators. And we could potentially throw Joey Logano in there, but we'll get to Joey in a second. He's next up. But Tyler Reddick, I mean, if we look at the 5 similar style racetracks, he's got a 16.8 average finish with a 4th place best finish. If we look at the trend line, he finished second last week, but his trend line over the last 5 races this year, 17.2. Even if he gets to his best of second, and I mean, he'd have to lead 40 laps. I honestly just don't think he gets to second. I think he's more of maybe a 10th to 15th place guy. And I don't think he leads 40 laps. I don't think he leads any laps. I think that this is going to be a Penske, Gibbs, maybe a Byron or Larson type of dominator type race. I think there's about 8 drivers that I think potentially could realistically finish in the top 5 or win and potentially dominate. Got to check my Powerball. Oh yeah, the Powerball's huge right now, isn't it? Isn't it like over $1 billion? I don't keep track because I don't play the lottery. I probably should. I probably have better luck sometimes than playing DFS, but I enjoy playing DFS. Just like I like, just putting $5 on a football game or whatever and seeing if I can win. And if I win, cool. If not, I'll easily go to Vegas or a casino and spend $200 on blackjack and 1.8 billion. God, maybe I should play that. God, could you imagine winning something like that and being the only winner? That would be insane. I've always said I would start a NASCAR team, but I saw somewhere where somebody won a lottery and they started a truck team, and they, even with winning a lottery, I think he only won, $10-20 million, started a truck team and literally was broke 3 years later. We're gonna buy one of the 2311 charters. You can, but the problem is I bet you Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, and that whole group probably are in for $100 million at this point. So, 1.8 billion, you could probably afford to do that, but man, that's almost like playing with lottery too. So the Tyler Reddick, I honestly would put him behind Briscoe. He doesn't just isn't the best track for him. He doesn't run super well at short tracks, and he doesn't run real well at flat style tracks. So Joey Logano, on the other hand, does race this track really, really well. $9,000 starting in 13th. He was 23rd in single lap, 16th in 10 lap consecutive average. Once again, he was in Group 2. Not overly concerned. His long run speed looked pretty good at 16th. He does have one win here, and that was in 2022 at the first race here at Gateway. But for the 5 races we're comparing to, he has a 5.2 average finish. At Gateway, he has a 3.0 average finish with 1 win. That's insane. He's extremely good at this style track. Now, does that mean it's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know, because he also said during practice today, this new tire combination that Goodyear brought did not favor the Penske car as much as it had in the past. He said, we'll make adjustments, we'll be okay. But there was a little bit of like, not sure exactly what to expect here. I mean, look at his practice speeds. They were not great. Not for somebody who has a 3rd place average finish. Buy it and have JRM run it. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could go in and be a solid investor and be a 50-50 partner with Junior. I don't know if he'd actually do that. You'd have to be a super silent partner. He would want he seems like he would be a control freak. I like Dale Jr., but I think he probably is a control freak. Yeah, I mean, 5.2 average finish, similar ovals for this year, 17th place average finish. Starting from 13th, that's going to be the biggest benefit, I think, to Joey Logano. Because if he gets his average finish and doesn't lead any laps, it's a 57.75. If he's able to lead some laps, it's just icing on the cake. It's 62.75. I like the Joey Logano play. It is not a sleeper. He will be well owned. He's got room for place differential. Even if he doesn't win, it just gets to a 3rd, leads a couple of laps, it's 62.75. So I like it, but that's going to be like one of the 5 drivers that everyone else is going to be on. The sleeper is the one that you got to figure out that's going to be different. So Joey would be in that core group. Chase Elliott, 8,800. Starting in 19th, Chase Elliott is the biggest head scratcher in the Cup Series right now. Why he can't qualify any better than what he does. But then he ends up back in the muck and ends up screwing up somewhere. I mean, he did it last week at Dover. I mean, at Darlington. Now, Darlington is not one of his better tracks, but neither is Phoenix. Neither is Gateway. He missed one of the races when he had his knee problem. So the 2 races that he's raced at, he's finished 17th on average. Only 1 top 20, no top 10s. Starting in 19th, kind of with the current trend line, I mean, they fired off okay, and they practiced okay. Then they went out and they qualified really poorly. I mean, he's got room to run, so I'm not taking him completely off the table, but there is a little bit of worrisome here. I mean, over the last 5 races, I mean, Chase Elliott was, for the first 2/3 of the regular season, he was Mr. Consistent, 5th through 10th every race. And the last month and a half, I mean, this has been Hendrick altogether, not just Chase Elliott, have just not finished races well. Larson's finally looks like he's starting to turn the corner, but I mean, Elliott's got an 18.8 average finish over the last 5 races on ovals. I guarantee you Alex Bowman is even worse than that. He's coming up here in a minute. William Byron's at a 14. So, yeah, little concerning for what's going on in Hendrick. I think Larson has a decent day tomorrow. Byron, I'm not sold on. Chase Elliott, I'm really not sold on at this point. And Alex Bowman, I think they might be cooked. Let's say, I mean, there's not even an average. He's got a 14.8 for the 5 races we're comparing to, an 18.8, nothing in the top 10. Get the 10th, it's 48 points. And I don't think you have many fast laps. He's never been a fast lap driver. I mean, it's 44.35. It's in the top 15 in points, but it's not getting close to the optimal. And I think he probably has a fair amount of ownership because number one, it's Chase Elliott, and there's some room for place differential. I'm not saying I'm going to pull him off completely, but there is a little bit of concern. I may fade off of the field, so I honestly think he's probably going to be 25% owned. I may end up being 15 to 20% ownership on him. Austin Cindric, our winner from last year here at Gateway, $8,500, starting in 9th. His practice speeds were not great. 27th in single lap, 28th in 10 lap consecutive average. Other than that one win, I mean, he does have 5 top 20s for the 5 races we're looking to. So he's a pretty consistent top 20 driver. 12.4 average finish. At Gateway, he's an 8.3 average finish. Like I said, this is absolutely a Penske style track. Now, once again, Joey said that this new tire combination was kind of throwing Penske team for a little bit of fits. Not Roger Penske. Roger Penske's chilling in his house. He doesn't make it to the racetrack very often. And his practice speeds were average. I mean, average is 18th right now. So this average line would be the 18th place driver because there's 36 drivers. So the average, and he's running about average. Well, he qualified in 9th. Now, the problem is, I think that might be, I mean, yes, he won here last year. Yes, he runs this race pretty well. But you're going to need an Austin Cindric to finish top 3 and lead laps. He didn't lead a whole lot of laps last year when he won. I mean, he won 52 laps is what he led. And he had, let me see if I can find it real quick. How many laps Gateway last year? He had 16 fast laps. Christopher Bell had 74 fast laps and led 80 laps. Yeah, they're pretty consistent. Let's see. Ryan Blaney led 20, had 20 fast laps. 80 laps for Christopher Bell, 74 fast laps. So, yeah, I mean, even with that, if we give him 20, but I don't think he's not starting that far enough up to do that, though, is the problem. Let's say he gets 20 and 20. It's 61. I mean, and that's finishing in 3rd. D Pope says your sleepers are Ty Dillon, Suarez, Hocevar, McDowell, and Stenhouse. McDowell says he really does like his car. What is the strategy? 2 dominators and the rest place differential? Yeah, and when you say dominators, I put that as who's going to finish probably top 5. So once again, let's go back up and look real quick at. So everybody, at least last year's Gateway race, everybody finished in the top 10 that made the optimal. In the 2023 race, you had a sleeper of Todd Gilliland, started in 28th, finished in 15th, and Michael McDowell 21st to 9th. at 5,700 and 5,600. I mean, Kyle Busch led over half the laps. Christopher Bell led a third of the laps. And then in 22, yeah, so it's, yeah, we had 4 place differentials in 22, 4 place differentials in 23, but only 2 place differentials in 24. So yeah, I would say probably 3 to 4 place differentials, and the other 1 to 2 dominators, but one of those place differentials will be a top 5 finisher. So yeah, I think you're probably spot on with that. I don't mind your thought process there. Austin Cindric, I will put him probably not in my core 15, but he'll be in my second set of drivers, which means he'll probably be somewhere between, in my ownership, probably 10 to 20%, and that's probably what he'll probably be. Cindric won't be a sleeper. He's just going to be somebody that will just be there. It's a fill-in spot. Bubba Wallace, $8,300 starting in 14th. He was 19th in single lap, 11th and 10th, 10 lap consecutive average. Only one top 5, one top 10, one top 20 in the 5 races that we're comparing to, with a 22.4 average finish. 3 total starts here at Gateway, never finished in the top 20, and a 25.7. He's going to need to just try to maintain and finish at best where he is starting. His practice speeds were not bad. Actually, they look a lot like Tyler Reddick's, but actually a little bit better. Starting in 14th, he's got a little room to run. This year he's kind of like Chase Briscoe. He is running much better than his average. But his average is pretty bad. So for him to finish better, starting in 14th, if he gets to 8th, that's probably a good day for him. Probably doesn't lead a whole lot of laps. He might have a couple of fast laps. Most of the fast laps are coming from guys that lead laps. So, and that's a 46.5. That's okay. But if he goes to anywhere close to his average, it's a 23rd. Now, the last 5 traditional oval styles, he does have the win in Indy, but it's a 9.4 with a worst of 28th. I gotta give him the bit of the doubt that probably his top end finish tomorrow is going to be about an 8th place finish. How far up can he get to 5th? He's only got to get to 55 points because he's 8,300. 4th puts him real close. So can Bubba Wallace go and get a 4th? And Bubba Wallace could end up being an outside sleeper pick because I don't think he will have a ton of ownership. He'll have some, but once again, because of the NFL starting tomorrow, we will have much more serious NASCAR DFS players than we will casual NASCAR DFS players, if that makes sense. Yeah, Gibbs is $7,000 starting 22nd. Could dial up oh yeah. No, Gibbs looked really, really good in practice also. And this is a style track that Gibbs runs that can run really well at. So yeah, Gibbs absolutely is somebody to take a look at. Bubba could be pretty sneaky. I think he's probably a 10%, maybe 8% on ownership. So you could possibly pencil in Bubba Wallace as a potential sleeper. Josh Berry, this needs to be a higher tire fall off track, in my opinion. I just don't, for the 5 races we're comparing to, realistically, he's only raced at Gateway once, and he finished 36. So it's really hard to compare Josh Berry to anything because he hasn't run here enough. And starting in 12th, I mean, if we look at his practice speeds, they're at best average, if not worse than average. I just think he's starting too far up. I just don't have a whole lot of interest here with Josh Berry starting in 12th. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to get up to 5th. Now, I mean, the one positive thing that he's got going for him is the 21 car is a sister car to Penske. So maybe. Pope says if I play the 20 max and that's it, out of your 15 to 20 drivers, should I manually min these guys to make sure I have exposure to them? Wish Barry were starting like 23rd this week. Yeah, if he were starting 23rd, he wouldn't be that big of a sleeper. It just makes him really tough starting in 12th to really. I mean, what you're saying is, do you think Josh Berry is going to go and beat Joey Logano here? I don't think he's going to. Do I think Josh Berry is going to go and beat Austin Cindric here? Maybe. Is Josh Berry going to go and beat Kyle Larson or Christopher Bell or Ryan, or I mean, any of the, you kind of get my, yeah. So I just think Josh is starting too far up, and if he were starting further back, he wouldn't be a sleeper. Josh Berry could be a sleeper, but he's going to have to get a top 5 finish, and we're going to have you're going to have some attrition to make that happen. Like I said, the one positive is this 21 car is pretty much a sister to the Penske group, and Josh has not run a car at a Penske style track, really. So we're kind of flown into unknown territory. I mean, when I say this track is a Penske track, this is much of a Penske track as Richmond used to be a Joe Gibbs track, which is now an Austin Dillon track. But you get my point. Kyle Busch, $8,000 starting in 22nd. Oh, I have no earthly idea what to do with Kyle Busch anymore. He's won here at this racetrack before. He's got 3 starts with, and this is all next gen car. He's got 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 2 top 20s with 1 win, a 12.7 average finish. At all the comparison style tracks, he's got an 11.6 average finish, starting in 22nd. But every time I think Kyle Busch is in a great spot to do well, he goes and just flubs it up. And his practice speeds were that. They were worse than average. Now he is starting worse than average. So is there room to go? Yeah, but every week he finds a way to screw stuff up on pit road, either him or his pit crew. They're so inconsistent. He either spins out or gets taken out by somebody. So if this is similar to Richmond and Dillon won that, I could definitely see Busch finishing well here or spinning out of turn 2. Or spinning going into turn 1 and downshifting and the rear end come out and he clobbers the wall between 1 and 2. That's honestly what I think Kyle Busch will end up doing. Because that's a very Kyle Busch thing to do. Or he'll blow a brake rotor. That's another real problem because they get on the brakes so hard here to get into turn 1 and 2. They blow brake rotors. I honestly have no earthly idea with what to do with Kyle Busch. All indications are this is a race for him to finish top 10. But I could also see this being a race where he finishes 28th and is nothing all day long. Let's just play the game and say he finishes in 7th, starting in 22nd. with 8 fast laps, it's a 50. That's probably an optimal type of day. I think Kyle Busch is playable, but buyer beware. I'm gonna reluctantly probably put him in 15-20% of my lineups. Because there's just this is a race that he could easily do that. How can we bet on Hocevar wrecking Bush and they have a brawl on pit road and Stenhouse jumps in? The crazy thing that I heard this week was, yes, Suarez is a potential. So if Justin Haley does end up losing his seat in the 7 car, I heard Daniel Suarez is a pretty viable candidate. The other viable candidate that I didn't have a clue about was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Could you imagine Ricky Stenhouse Jr. going and racing the 7 at Spire with Hocevar? That would be almost a nightmare in my opinion. But very funny. And I could absolutely see, actually, what I could really see happening is I could see Justin Haley going to Hayek in the 47, and they almost do a trade. They say, okay, Justin, you're going to the 47 with Hayek. Ricky Stenhouse, you're going to go into the 7. I could see that happening. But Kyle Busch, I'll have him in some lineups. I don't know how sneaky it would be, but he's burned so many people over the course of this year. He could end up being kind of low owned. Ross Chastain, 7,900. His practice speeds were not good. Qualified really well. And his averages are, I don't know, 13, 14, 12. That's only his practice speeds. I mean, they're better than average. But he's starting in 4th. I don't think he's able to hold and maintain what the likes of Blaney, Bell, Larson, Logano, the Penske guy. That swap is like, do you want vanilla or French vanilla? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, nailed it on the head. I could actually potentially see. I mean, I see Justin Haley actually being on the outside looking in, and Suarez going to the 47, and Stenhouse going to the 7, and Haley's on the outside looking in. But if Haley can continue running well, and he has been, he might be able to hold on to a seat. They might give him another year. So I think Ross Chastain is just starting too far up. Starting in 4th, and once again, you're asking Ross Chastain now when his back gets up against the wall, and how many he is sitting plus 21, so his back's not against the wall for playoff. He needs just a good, solid finish. But Ross is a lot like Hocevar. He has no other route but go. Yeah, I mean, Ross is going to need to finish. I mean, even finishing in 2nd and only leading 25 laps, it's a 54.75. And once again, I still think the core is going to be the Penske guys. And it's mostly going to be Blaney, or it's going to be, or the 2 Joe Gibbs guys. I mean, Ty Gibbs could play a role. So it could be any of the Gibbs guys, could be any of the Penske guys, or the 2 Hendrick guys. And I don't see Ross being inside that group. So I'm probably going to be a fade off of Ross. It's just going to be too hard for him to get to the points. Now he's 7,900, but I mean, he could be $5,000. And starting in 4th, if I don't think he's going to finish top 10, and I'm not sure he does, I'm not going to play him. Brad Keselowski. And this is where the practice speeds get really, really wonky because he practiced extremely well. $7,700 starting in 2030. He was 3rd in single lap, 1st in 10 lap consecutive average. So all indications are he's got a pretty good car. And I think he does. And if we look, Yeah, I mean, this track's not awful for him. 3 starts, 1 top 5, 2 top 20s, a 17th place average finish, starting at 23rd. Sorry, it's getting late. Finished in 3rd last year here. So good finish for him. Practice speeds, like I said, he fired off super well. Um, just kind of inconsistent across the board though. So a little wonky there. He was fast the entire time. Only did 23 real fast laps. Or how many? Yeah, did 24 laps. Um, so not bad. But he didn't qualify as 23rd. Maybe a benefit for us. I mean, over the last 5 normal races, oval races this year, he's got a 9.4 average finish. They have really turned the corner. Now, the comparison tracks, so the 3 gateway races and the gosh, I am getting tired. I can't remember the comparison tracks. Phoenix and Nashville. It's a 21.4. Fall in between there somewhere, get to a 13th. And he is one that will stay out longer than everyone else. So he may actually get to those laps led. They may not have as many fast laps. 53 points. I don't mind the Brad Keselowski. It's not a sleeper, I don't think. It's probably sub 15% owned, but he'll probably fall between 10 to 15%. Chris Buescher, $7,500, starting in 11th. 29th in single lap, 31st in 10 lap consecutive average. Not great. He's got an 11.3 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, and he has 2 total starts here at Gateway with a 13th place average finish, starting in 11th. Practice speeds were actually worse than Brad Keselowski's. Now, if I remember correctly, Buescher was in the second group. Brad was in the first group. But if he just goes and gets his average finish, if we look at his 5 last races, he's got a 17.2, where Brad's at a 9.4 or 9.8. So Buescher's kind of headed a little bit in the wrong direction, and Brad's headed in a little bit better direction. But starting 11th, even getting the 5th, it's a 50-point day. Once again, do I think Chris Buescher is going to go and finish in 5th here? I don't. I mean, I think Brad will strategize his way into potentially getting what I said he was going to get, which was 13th. I don't think Chris Buescher strategizes his way into a 5th. I think and anything worse than 5th doesn't play. Yeah, I mean, I think he probably ends up, maybe he gets to 9th, but that's only 42 points. Sure, it's in the top 15, so you could put him in the sub core group, but I wouldn't have him much more than that. Alex Bowman, $7,300, starting in 25th. I honestly think Alex Bowman's goose is cooked at this point. The pit road debacles they had last week, the inconsistencies he's been having for the last, I don't know. I mean, what's his trend line? 16th place average finish. He does have a 2nd, but he's also got a 31st. He's got a 22nd place average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. Finished 28th in this race last year, and his practice speeds, I mean, they're not awful, but they're average. Starting 25th, I guess there's some room to run. So, you put it on the calculator. If he can get to, I mean, for a while there, he was continually kind of finishing like Chase Elliott, finishing 9th. Well, that's a 53.25 day with 5 fast laps. I don't think he goes and leads laps. Now at $7,300, he might make the optimal with that. But if he has any more pit road issues, it's I mean, finishes in 20th. He's outside the top 15. That, and I think he may have some ownership because he does have some place differential upside. I'll have some ownership. I'm not going to be a complete fade on him. And he'll probably end up making my core 15, but he'll be like the 13th driver in that group. Austin Dillon starting in 15th. They just unloaded awful. They were 36th and 30th. They were last in practice. He has an 18.6 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. He did win Richmond, which is somewhat similar to what we're racing on this weekend. He did have a 6th place finish here last year at this same track. All that's fine and dandy, but holy moly, he unloaded really bad. This is what last in practice looks like. He had what, 1 or 2 laps that were at average, and he's starting slightly above average. So did you say Austin Dillon was one of your sleepers? Where'd that sleeper list go? You typed it in. Hold on. Where'd your sleeper thing go, Pope? It disappeared. Or am I just missing it? Oh, here it is. Ty Dillon. No, so you said Ty Dillon, not Austin Dillon. Suarez, Hocevar, McDowell, Stenhouse. Okay, we haven't gotten any of them yet. I don't think Austin Dillon's a sleeper. I don't think he actually ends up having that great of a day. Hocevar starting in 27th is not going to be a sleeper. It's either going to be a home run or it's going to be a flat strikeout. But he has an average finish of 20.5 at the 5 races we're comparing to, a 22nd average finish here, but he finished in 8th last year in the same car. And you want to see a crazy practice sheet. Oh, wow. He was all over the board. He must have been loose in, loose off, loose everywhere. He fired off fast and this is chaos. This is Carson Chaos Hocevar to a T. All over the board. So, yeah, he's got to have some ownership, but God, if it doesn't scare the bejesus out of me. If he goes and gets his 8th place finish like he had last year here, I mean, he's definitely probably somewhere in the optimal. But the practice speed scared me. It just that's rough. I mean, he was 4th in single lap, but 30th in 10 lap. Talk about holy fall off. So yeah, I mean, buyer beware. It could be a home run, or it could be, like I said, just an absolute strikeout with Hocevar. And I think because of his starting spot, I'm not sure how much of a sleeper he is. And because of how chaotic he is, he'll have some ownership. Ryan Preece, 6,900, starting in 32nd, probably will not be a sleeper either. Your sleeper is going to be the guy that's starting in like 19, 20, 21, who just is, $6,000. I don't know. We'll get to them. They're coming up. And I honestly think it's going to be the front row motorsports guys are the guys that I think I really, really like. But Ryan Preece starting 32nd. His practice speeds were 30th and 24th. But he's got a 22nd place average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, a 23rd place average finish for Gateway. Practice speeds were better than average, starting in 32nd. I'll have some ownership. He'll make my top 15 core, but I think he's probably going to be core for a lot of people. I think he has probably pretty good ownership. Because, I mean, he's averaging a 15.2 and a 22. So, I mean, even if we take the 2 averages of those and we get down to, let's say, 16th, I mean, he's already well into the top 15. And it's not going to he gets to a 13th place finish, he's in the optimal. So Ryan Preece is definitely a cash play, definitely not a sleeper. Ty Gibbs, on the other hand, I mean, because he practiced so well, probably won't be a sleeper, but I do like the Ty Gibbs play a lot. The Gibbs cars are fast, the Penske cars are fast, the 200 guys are fast. Those are my kind of my cores. And I tell you what, you want to talk about somebody who just went out and ran a shitload of laps. He did 40 laps at practice. I mean, they only get 25 minutes of practice, and their lap times were 35 seconds, and he did 40 laps. I mean, he literally, from start to finish, he was out there the entire time. They got a lot of data. You got to remember, the first stage is 45 laps. Well, Ty Gibbs did 40 laps for practice. He's got a lot of really good information to go with. And he looked pretty good all the way throughout. He got a little slow at the very, very end. Now, I know that he and Noah Gragson were kind of playing footsie with each other in this section here. I think this is when he and Noah were playing footsie with each other. Noah kind of got up on the backside of him, but I think they did it on purpose to see, number one, what the aero push was going to do, and also see what the car was going to do for Ty Gibbs. I think there was a little strategy between the two of them to kind of see. Not for sure, but that's my guess. But Ty Gibbs, $6,700 starting in 21st, absolutely all day. Not sleeper though. At least I don't think. I mean, I think he's sub 20% owned, but more than 10% owned. I think he probably ends up at about 14-15% owned. So probably not much of a sleeper, but I think it's a good solid pick. Eric Jones starting in 16th. I mean, all indications are he's going to finish close to his starting spot. 15.2 for the 5 races that we were comparing to. 17th at Gateway, and the trend line, let's say there's practice. I mean, he's pretty much right at average, and he's pretty much starting at average. So, gotta get what you got, and the trend line is a 16th place finish. Well, 16th to 16th isn't going to get you a whole lot of place differential points, but this is where it could potentially end up looking, if he can get to a 12th, I mean, that barely puts him in the top 15. He's going to need to get to 10. Yeah, that probably doesn't cut it either. 8th might get him there at 6,500. Outside looking in. Eric Jones would be potentially a sleeper if he goes and gets a top 5. This is a sleeper, because nobody's going to touch Eric Jones starting in 16th when you've got John Hunter Nemechek, his teammate, starting in 20th. There's 4 spots there. Ty Gibbs starting in 21st, 5 spots there, and Eric Jones starting in 16th. Eric Jones is going to get overlooked, and Legacy is running much better. With the right strategy, they end up so Eric Jones would be one of the 5 or 6 sleeper picks that I would look at, because he's going to get overlooked. He's sandwiched between Ty Gibbs, Ryan Preece, Ty Gibbs, so 32nd, 21st. Then you got Eric Jones starting in 16th. John Hunter, which is next in line, starting in 20th, and Justin Haley starting in 31st. So Eric Jones will absolutely be overlooked. He'll be sub 10% owned, and he has a potential to go and get a good finish. Now, it's risky, but that's the sleeper pick. So Eric Jones, mark him down as a sleeper. I wouldn't run him a whole lot, but I definitely like him as a sleeper pick. Same thing with John Hunter. I like the Eric Jones play better than John Hunter. I think John Hunter's starting a little too far up, and it's a little too risky. and his practice speeds were not near as good as Eric Jones. Eric Jones was much more consistent at or below the average line. There's 4 spots of difference between the two of them, but the averages just aren't there, and I think he's starting too far up for me to feel comfortable taking a risk. So even if he gets to his slightly better than his average, it's 37. Sure, it puts him in the top 15 in points, but he's still a good. I mean, he would need to finish top 10 for it to play. Justin Haley starting in 31st. I mean, because of his starting spot, he'll get some ownership. He finished 9th in this race last year here. He needs good, solid finishes. But his practice speeds look, I mean, even worse than John Hunter's. Now he's starting 11 spots worse, so give him that. But not great. Every one of them's below average. So I'm not sure Justin Haley gets much more than he's. I mean, maybe he gets to 21st, which is the average for the 5 races we're comparing to. And that's not going to be enough. 10 spots is not enough. It's 31.45 points. It's not even the top 15. So, I mean, because of Justin Haley's what he needs to end up doing on the racetrack, I'll have maybe some ownership in him, but I'm probably not going to be super heavy. Daniel Suarez starting in 26th. I mean, he's got an 18.4 for the 5 races we're comparing to, a 17.7 at Gateway, and his trend line is a 21.8. So, yeah, probably looking at about an 18th place finish. Let's look at his practice chart. At or better than average for most of his run. And he's starting worse than average. So, I don't mind the Daniel Suarez play. Can I say it's sneaky? I mean, other than the fact that for some reason in DFS, the last 4 races, Daniel Suarez has been absolutely sub 5% across the board almost every time. He's been one of the lowest owned drivers. Now, he hasn't really done a whole lot of great things. I mean, he had a good race last week. But yeah, he is not getting any love from the DFS community at all. So that's where I think Daniel Suarez probably has the potential to be a sleeper. But I'm not sure. I mean, he gets to 15th. I mean, that's a 41. It's between the top 15 and the optimal. It could end up playing at 6,200. If you end up having to play, I'm not sure you could play a Bell, Blaney, Larson, and a Daniel Suarez along with some of these others, but maybe. I think AJ may be starting a little too far up for what I feel comfortable with. I think this is potentially a good track for AJ. The road course guys have a tendency to do pretty well at these tracks where they've got to downshift not once but even twice, and they've got to go from 5th to 3rd. They understand how to. And it's not the next gen car likes to wheel hop, but it will get very loose in when you're coming in. So what you're doing is when you come into the corner, you're diving in the corner and you're shifting down. And because these cars are rear wheel drive, it will want to kick the rear end out when that gear catches. And that's very similar to what they feel on road courses. So the AJs, the Michael McDowells, the Shane Van Gisbergens may end up having a decent turn, a decent finish at Gateway because of that. I mean, AJ's got a 12th place average finish. Similar style tracks, he's got a 16.5. The problem is he's starting in 17th. So let's say he goes and gets up to 9th. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. I mean, it's 45.25 points for a 9th place finish at $6,000. I think AJ could be probably pretty sleepy. I don't mind taking the road course guys. the AJs, the Michael McDowells, the SVGs, which are the 3 drivers in this $58,000 to $6,000 range. So, yeah. Yeah, I think you could almost probably put all 3 of these guys in. I think AJ ends up probably being sleepy. I think SVG will absolutely be sleepy. And I don't trust him and I don't like it, but I definitely liked SVG's super long run speed. And we'll get to him in 1 second. But Michael McDowell, he was 7th in single lap, 3rd in 10 lap consecutive average. He was in the first group, so you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. And he's got a 17.3 average finish at Gateway. Not as good as AJ's 12th place finish, but he's starting further back. So if he can go and get, a 20th place or 17th place finish starting in 28th, it might be enough. That and Michael McDowell also, they're going to probably throw some Hail Marys at this. If he gets to 15th or 14th, he's there. I think he leads any laps. I'm not sure he has any fast laps. We'll give him 3 just for fun. So, a 14th place finish for a Michael McDowell, who kind of is in about the 20th place, but needs to get a little bit better than what he normally does, and he's there. So, I like the AJ. I like the Michael McDowell. They both could be overlooked. SVG will absolutely be overlooked. He is starting way, for what everybody's going to see, SVG starting in 18th, they're going to be like, nope, not interested. And I can completely understand. Until you look at his long run speed, he didn't fire off well. He even said he did no sim time before he got to this track. He watched one race, so he kind of understood the line. And he fired off slow. But by lap 6, he figured it out and was at average. And if we follow it all the way through, he was as fast as Christopher Bell at the end of the run. He had figured it out. He had figured out the downshifting. He was using his heel toe clutch braking system, and it was working. If he figures that out in the long run, you could see SVG going and getting a top 10. Well, $5,800 starting in 18th, if he goes and gets a top 10, it'd absolutely be sleepy. He will be absolutely sub 5% owned, and he'll get to 45 points without leading a lap. And he'll make the optimal lineup. I would put $100 on that. So, absolutely, SVG, Michael McDowell, AJ Allmendinger, all could end up being really good sleepy picks. Zane Smith outkicked his coverage. Going into this weekend, I was like, Zane should have probably a pretty good finish, meaning 8th to 12th to 14th. Well, then he goes out and qualifies in 10th. His practice speeds were good. He was in this first group, so he's going to be faster. He didn't fall off all that bad. He stayed right at about average. The problem is he's starting in 10th. And once again, I don't think he goes up in battles with a Ryan Blaney, a Joey Logano, a Christopher Bell. I think at best, maybe he does get to a 9th. Well, that's only 38 points. Sure, it's top 15 worthy, but it's not optimal. And it's too risky. I mean, if he falls to 13th, he's below. So it's like taking the pole sitter. You just need him to do everything perfect. Now, I think if you're out there and you're gambling and you want to go throw Zane Smith for a top 10, I don't mind that call. Throw him in a top 10 along with AJ or Michael McDowell, and you probably get some really good odds. Probably end up getting 25 to 1 on that for both of them to hit a top 10. Todd Gillen, though, starting in 30th, probably not going to be real sneaky or a sleeper pick, but I mean, he's got a 17.7 average finish for all the 3 starts. His An 18.4 for the 5 races we're comparing to. His practice speeds, he didn't practice very long, and he fell off real fast. That's the concerning part that I have a little bit with Todd Gillen. His history's good, but I'm not sure what happened with his practice. But I mean, he gets to 14th. It's 47 points. All he's got to do is get to 45 to probably be close to optimal. I mean, at 5,500, it's not going to take a whole lot. I mean, I don't think he probably has fast laps, so he's going to need to be 15th, probably 14th. But I don't mind that play at all. Not sure how sneaky it's going to be, but I like the play. Noah Gragson, surprisingly fast in practice. 11th in single lap, 6th in 10 lap. He actually did 35 laps of practice, which I was very impressed to see. Usually they don't do a whole lot of practice. And this is where he was playing footsie with Ty Gibbs. I don't know what that all was about, but they were getting cute with each other. Short run speed was good. Long run speed was average. I mean, starting in 24th, Noah could be sneaky also. It's not going to take a whole lot once again. I mean, there are this group from 6,000 to probably to Noah are all probably potentially sneaky except for Zane. I don't like the Zane. He's starting too far up. But starting in 24th, if he can get 13th, 12th, 45 points to get to 12th. That's kind of a big hill to climb for Noah, but it's possible. I don't like him as much as I'd like the Todd Gillen play, but once again, that would tell me that Noah will be probably sub 5% owned. Well, if he goes to get to 12th place finish and you are one of the 5%ers, you're there. Stenhouse starting in 34th. I mean, you want to talk about ugly? The 5 races we're comparing to, it's a 28.8. The 3 races at Gateway, it's a 28th place average finish. His best finish is 20th. Practice speeds were okay. For starting in 34th, they're not awful. So don't mind the practice speeds. But this is concerning. For the 5 races that we're comparing to, it's a 28.8. The last 5 races of this year on normal oval tracks, it's 30.2. There's nothing that says anything better than about a 22nd. Now, we'll put it on the chart and see if 22nd would fly. 33.8 doesn't even make the top 15 in points. So I honestly don't think Ricky is the play. And I think he probably has ownership because of where he's starting. So I'm probably going to fade off of Ricky. Cole Custer could be sneaky. Starting in 29th, 6th in single lap, 7th in 10 lap consecutive average. He did fall off quite a bit on his long run. He fired off pretty quick and then it fell off, but it was consistent fall off. Starting in 29th, it's kind of about where he finished 29th in the first year that they ran in 2022. Then he went to the Xfinity Series. So I don't have a whole lot of data here. And starting 29th, I don't know if I like the Cole Custer play. His long run speed kind of worries me a little bit. That I think Ford probably pulls whatever information they were getting because this single Stewart Haas car is going to Chevy next year. So whatever information they were getting from Ford, they're not getting anything now. So that's a little concerning. And I'm not sure that he's any better than a 20th place finish, and that's 32nd. That's not going to play. Ty Dillon starting in 35th. Pope, yes, it potentially is sneaky. But it's not really going to be that sneaky because I think he probably gets ownership. So I don't think it's going to be sub 5%. I think he's probably going to be maybe 10%. Because people are going to be looking for salary relief here. And Riley Herbst ain't going to play. Cody Ware might, but let's I mean, if you look at Ty's practice speeds, there was nothing that was even remotely close to average. So I think he qualified probably where he should. And he's got, I mean, a 23.5 for the 5 racers we're comparing to. And in the last 5 regular oval style tracks, he's got a 30.2 average finish. I mean, at best, he's probably a 23rd. And let's see. If he gets to 23rd, does that play? I mean, that gets him to 33 points. I don't think that ends up playing. And that's with 5 fast laps, and that's not going to happen. I mean, it's 31 points. That's not in the top 15. So, I mean, I will have some ownership in Ty Dillon, but I'll probably be even with the field. I'll probably be sub 5%. In fact, I might be underweight. So, I don't think Ty Dillon is sneaky or a sleeper. I think it's just a value savings that people would be willing to go, because I don't think they're going to be willing to go to Riley Herbst. He has just been abysmal this year. 30.5 average finish, and that's only for Phoenix and Nashville. He's never raced at this racetrack before. And my chart didn't even go up this high, and I wasn't going to change the chart to show how high that went. Yeah, I mean, he was about average, and he's starting in 33rd. He's just so inconsistent. I don't have any interest. Cody Ware starting in 36th. I think Cody Ware's headed in the right direction. I just don't think there's anything but maybe a 29th place finish for Cody. And at 4,500, I'm not sure that's going to be even enough. 29th gets him to 20 points. So I don't have anything that I'm even remotely interested in really below Noah. I could probably put a couple of Ty Dillons in, but I think that's probably about it. So looking at this chart, now that I've talked about it forever, I definitely like the Blaney call. I like Bell. I like Hamlin. I like Logano. So all 4 of these drivers that I think have the potential to win or potentially be dominators, I'm absolutely fine with. Byron's an outside potential dominator or top 5 finisher. Cendric, same thing. Larson could end up getting around Hamlin and leading a ton of laps. I don't like the Reddick call. I don't like the Briscoe call. Taco, everyone thinks this race is in the short track package for some reason. Well, it is. I hate to tell you. It absolutely is. I've raced it plenty of times in iRacing, and turns 1 and 2 absolutely race like every other short track out there. Now, turns 3 and 4 are a lot more like New Hampshire, but yeah, I mean, other than straightaway speeds, this absolutely races like a short track, especially in the stock car world. So I've raced it too many times. I mean, they will get the faster speeds at Bristol than they will at Gateway. So yeah, it absolutely belongs in the package. Yeah, which makes it even worse is the Aero, especially turns 3 and 4 will absolutely throw it. I mean, I understand your reasoning because it's a 1.25 mile, but because it's so flat, and because the corners in 1 and 2 are so tight. Yeah, I mean, I could see the argument of putting it with something similar to Darlington. But then you're able to carry more speed at Darlington. But the tire wear fall off at Darlington's much greater. So it really, honestly, is its own unique little beast. There is nothing really to compare to, other than maybe New Hampshire. And even now, if we went to like the Milwaukee Mile, you could probably put the Milwaukee Mile into this package group. So you could put it in. You could put the Milwaukee Mile, you could put New Hampshire. Is Cindric sneaky? Yes and no. He won the last race here, so that kind of takes him out of the sneaky pick. So, and he runs for Penske. So I don't think it's sneaky. I think it could be sub 15% owned. I agree that it should be in the short track package, but the horsepower is indeed reduced this week. Because of the gearing. I mean, the horsepower is the same horsepower they run at every track. They don't put restrictors on any of the engines, so the gearing is going to be a little bit wonky because they go from fifth to third. So your corner exit speed on coming out of 2 is abysmally low. And then because you have to slow down so much to carry the speed on 3 and 4, it's just tough. So it appears that the horsepower is reduced, but they haven't reduced the horsepower. The problem is this car handles well enough that you can throw it all the way down to third gear and, pretty much hammer down coming out of 2 on fresh tires, and you're not going to spin out. So that's the problem with this car. It handles too well. Eric Jones and Bubba. Yes, I could see that. But I honestly, I think my sneaky picks will probably end up being what we talked about was the AJ, Michael McDowell, and Shane. I think Shane could be actually really sneaky. I think Shane could get a top 10. So just my thought. But Taco, I don't think I've seen you in here before. I appreciate you joining in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and join us every next Saturday. They are racing at Bristol at this time. Hopefully they're done by 1 o'clock in the morning. And then they're racing Friday night late. So Saturday, probably around 11 o'clock next week is when I will go live. Is the goal. As long as I get everything done and in, I would like to try to get the video done and out of the way for college football. So, because that's my probably second favorite sport next to NASCAR, and then probably third would be the NFL or college basketball. But so I'm going to probably plan on going live between 10 and 11 o'clock next Saturday morning. But either way, that's the wrong one. So let's go through this real quick. Like I said, I like those guys. I like the Larson play. I do not like the Reddick play. Briscoe, no. Busher, no. Ross, no. Zane, no. So out of this top finishers, the Byron, Cindric, Larson, I'm okay with. Anything below him, I don't like. Kyle Busch, he's in play. A little bit risky, though, in my opinion. Priest absolutely is a place differential play all day long. Same thing with Brad. Carson, Elliott, no, don't think I'm on the Elliott bandwagon, and it's going to take too much for him to get. He's going to have to get much further up than I want him to at $8,800. Bubba could be easily in play, could be sneaky, but it's a tough one. Michael McDowell, like I said, I think he's going to get overlooked, and I think this track kind of plays into some of what Michael likes to run. Eric Jones would definitely be very sneaky. I've got him on there twice. Oops. I like the Ty Gibbs play. I do not like the Bowman play. Flores kind of scares me a little bit. I do not like the Dillon play. Gilliland, I'm okay with. Haley, I'm okay with. John Hunter, I'm okay with. I know SVG's down here in the red, but after really kind of looking at everything, I really think that SVG could end up having a really, really good day. I'm also okay with Noah. I'm okay with AJ. Ricky, I don't know. Ty Dillon, I don't think so. Cole Custer, maybe. Josh Berry's starting way too far up. So, sneaky, SVG, Noah. Haley, I'm not sure how sneaky Haley and Gillen are going to be. Because they'll get some ownership because of where they're starting. Eric Jones will be sneaky. I like that one. Michael McDowell could be sneaky. He might have some ownership, though. Won't be more than 10%. So most of these guys I've talked about are going to be sub 10%. So they could be sleepers. So hopefully I gave you a kind of a list to go off of. But yeah, the Blaney, Bell, Hamlin, Logano, Byron, Cindric, Larson, all potentially could be dominators / top 5-10 finishers. So, all right. I think that's about it. I've kept everyone long enough. I'm still over the 2-hour mark, even though I wanted to hit the sack a long time ago because 8 o'clock in the morning is going to come real fast. So, everyone, good luck tomorrow or today, as I would say. And next Saturday at about somewhere between 10 and 11 a.m., and we'll discuss the Bristol night race. One of the best races of the year. Can't wait. All right. Thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your weekend. Good luck. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
He's going to take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job.